And good morning, everyone, or good evening, or good afternoon, depending upon where you are on this rotating globe. Welcome to another edition of The Other Side of Midnight, that magical time between dusk and dawn, when on this show, just about anything can happen. If you listen to last night's show, which we did 3 hours on the developing extraordinary mysteries of Didymos. Remember the asteroid, the primary asteroid around which little 1/5 scale Dimorphos is orbiting, or was orbiting every 11 hours and 55 minutes. Well, we spent 3 hours last night talking about NASA's DART mission, the direct asteroid redirection test. That's the acronym DART, which was culminated with an impact of the main spacecraft on the evening East Coast time of December, September 26, 2022, just a couple weeks ago. And then all hell broke loose. And so we spent 3 hours discussing a really remarkable set of unusual new information and events and coming attractions around Didymos. I'll get to that in more detail in a minute, but I wanted to point your attention to item number one. For some reason, my website tonight, the Other Side of Midnight website, is not updating because there's supposed to be 2 stories up there that are not up there. Remember how last night, toward the end of the show, Robert Morningstar said that both President Putin and President Zelensky were going to be showing up for the G20 summit, which this year in November, God, everything this year is happening in November, is going to be held in Indonesia, in Bali. Well, I called Robert this afternoon and I asked him for a link, which he gave me. It's an actual story on RT, and Keith put it up, but I'm not seeing it on the website. And I'm also not seeing the second link, which is supposed to be a direct link to NASA. So there's something going on with our website, which, of course, is not unexpected because people diddle with this show all the time. I mean, really, statistically, look at all the bizarre things that happened around this show. Anyway, so when we get it fixed, if we can get it fixed, item number one tonight in Radio with Pictures, which, remember, if you're new to the show, the way you get to these items, and you're going to want to definitely get to the items when we get to our guests, is you go to theothersideofmidnight.com, which is a very remarkable banner, which was created by my primary guest tonight, Jonathan Womack, called Queen Hera of Park Avenue. And in case you're wondering how ancient Greek mythology mixes with modern New York real estate, just kind of hold on. All will become clear. Okay, so you click on that, which says Womack, Lambert, Wheatley, and Morgan at the bottom. That takes you to the guest page. And right under that banner at the top of the guest page, you will see where it says Fast Links to Items. You click on my name, and it will take you to my section of Radio with Pictures, which I am refreshing again. Oh, there we are. Okay. Item number 2 should now take us to the NASA headquarters link about the Didymos press conference. But item number 1 is the right link. It is RT, which is Russian television. Apparently, according to RT, which learned this from an ambassador of the Indonesian government, next month in November, both presidents involved in this insane war, Zelensky and Putin, are going to be at the same conference physically, not virtually. They'll be there physically. And what the ambassador said to RT is the Indonesian government, which of course is hosting the G20 this year, is putting them at separate hotels, which I thought was kind of interesting. Anyway, that solidifies that this is a real sourced story. Remember, these days, you can't tell real news from fake news unless you track back to primary sources. So the primary source for this is the an Indonesian official. We don't know whether it's the ambassador to Moscow or not, as reported by official Russian television, RT, and there it is. So Now, if they both show up, that would be a very opportune time to have a quiet, off the books, no cameras, no reporters, no news at all, background discussion between these two guys about how to end this damn war. And that, of course, would be an extraordinarily positive development. So keep your fingers crossed. Okay, let me refresh one more time and see if Keith has been able to fix link number 2. No, it still only goes to the picture. Link number 2 should actually take you to the actual NASA headquarters press release, which was issued yesterday, Friday, which notifies everyone of a very important NASA press conference that's going to be held. You're going to want to write this down in case we can't get the website fixed. 2 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon, Eastern Daylight Time in the United States. That's the first time since impact that a large number of important people, both from NASA headquarters, I think the president of the Italian Space Agency, and a bunch of scientists are all going to show up on NASA television or on YouTube, the NASA channel, or if you log on to nasa.gov, it'll be there too. At 2 p.m. on Tuesday, they will hold a press conference telling us what they have learned in the 2 weeks plus 1 day since the impact of the dart into Dimorphos, the little 600-foot wide guy orbiting the half-mile wide larger object called Didymos. Now, just before I went on the air tonight, I put out a call to my kind of loosely organized independent citizen scientist amateur astronomer network that I put together with the help of a good friend of mine in the community over the last 2 weeks. And I put out a general question, and I said, have any of you guys, because they're all busily measuring Didymos. You can't see Dimorphos from the Earth in, amateur-sized telescopes, but they've been easily able to measure the photometry of Didymos. And Didymos, before impact, did 2 things. It had a rotation, brightening, darkening every 2 hours, roughly 20 minutes. I know some of you were thinking, is it 2.19.5? I don't know. I didn't do the measurement. It's listed as 2.26 minutes, 2 hours, 0.26 minutes, so you can do the math. That was before impact. Now, superimposed on that 2 hour and a third rotation rate of Didymos was the 11-hour, 55-minute orbit of Dimorphos, the little satellite, around Didymos, every 11 hours, 55 minutes. Those 2 light curves were first disentangled in 2003 when the presence, because of these eclipses of Dimorphos by Didymos, showed up on an amateur astronomer's photometric traces. And since then, astronomers, both professional and amateur all over the world, have been measuring these 2 periods of the Didymos system. Now, what makes this really interesting is that all the asteroids, and there's something like 40, 50,000 that are now being tracked at one level or another by both professionals and amateurs, 50,000 asteroids. And the relatively much smaller number that come closest to the Earth so they can be seen by amateur telescopes, because these things are really dim because they're small. They're miles, or in the case of Dimorphos, hundreds of feet in diameter. And they're dark. They're very black. They're like carbon black. So they don't reflect much sunlight. So they're really dim. So you need really good equipment to pick them up and record their brightness changes faithfully. There's been enormous numbers of light curves accumulated on this object since 2003. So we really know the period of rotation of Didymos, 2 1/3 hours. And we know the orbital period of Dimorphos, 11 hours, 55 minutes, with extraordinary clock-like precision. So what I tasked my guys to do, and they were, of course, eager to do because everybody wants to know the answer, is, well, after this extraordinary, huge, incredibly amazing impact on Monday night, the 26th, has anybody picked up the light curves of either the spin of Didymos or the orbit eclipses of Dimorphos? And I got back just before airtime an answer. And the answer is no, which is really important. Because if you look at the amount of material coming off the system after impact, it looked to me qualitatively like the energy expended and maybe the energy triggered, apropos of last night's discussion, not only totally destroyed Dimorphos, reducing it to basically a cloud of rubble or much smaller material like dust, micron-sized dust, millionth of a meter-sized dust, which is blowing around under solar radiation pressure. But because of secondary effects, the shock wave from the destruction of Dimorphos just crossing the half mile separating it from Didymos, a good portion of Didymos could also have been destroyed or knocked off or obliterated or blasted away in excess of the escape velocity of the two-body orbiting system, in which case that would account very nicely for the extraordinary brightening of dust that we have seen in the last 2 weeks from the Didymos system. And now we've got it correctly labeled. There, that link takes you to the NASA press conference on Tuesday, item number 2. And what I chose for the linking image is a amateur astronomer's 0.6 meter telescope. That's the size of the mirror in Chile. 0.6 meter. Remember, a meter is about 3 feet, so it's maybe a 2 foot meter, 2 foot wide mirror reflecting telescope. He's taken a stunning, set of images there. The top one is the raw image. The bottom one I brightened. Notice, apropos last night's discussion, of what we're seeing around the Didymos location. Now, keep in mind that jet going off to the upper left is thousands of miles long. Really, only in the last 2 weeks. Solar radiation pressure has pushed the dust far away from the little Didymos system, which on this scale would be like a pixel. And furthermore, it's filled a geometric form in 3 dimensions around where Didymos used to be, which has this extraordinary 3D shape of a tetrahedron, which is the first object that manifests from higher dimensions into 3-dimensional reality in terms of hyperdimensional geometry and hyperdimensional mathematics. So something is causing this dust being emitted from the entire system, probably the inadvertent destruction of Didymos, into a tetrahedron made of tiny micron-sized dust. And you're looking down on it at about a 30-degree angle. Now, given that the orbit plane of Dimorphos around Didymos was exactly like edge on, like you held up a CD and put it like edge on on this photograph, that would mean to me, given that these geometries, according to the experiments of Bruce De Palma, are dependent on a quantity called angular momentum, that not only did the impact destroy Dimorphos, but it probably tilted the rotational plane of the remaining material at a very steep angle to the ecliptic plane of the Earth and to the line of sight. So they really did a number on this object, and it's going to be extraordinarily interesting as to what really happened. And B, is NASA going to tell us the truth? Or are they going to make like, oh, everything is fine, nothing's wrong, nothing to see here, move along, it was incredibly successful, and we'll have specific data for you later. And of course, later will never come, and they'll be hoping that people's interest in this incredibly news-filled environment these days will be distracted by 15 other world-shaking events, up to and including, the prospect of nuclear Armageddon, and no one will give a damn as to what happened to Didymos, and the people who do will have no political power, and it will all just kind of fade away into the background, which is why we're scheduling on Saturday next, which is, 6 days from 2 of our Didymos program, where we'll bring you what NASA said And more important, we will hopefully bring you more ground-based observations which can confirm with good, hard empirical science whether NASA really blew the entire system away. Now, why should we care about any of this in terms of tonight's show? Because they are, in fact, directly connected. Last night, we proposed that a long, long time ago, in a solar system not that far away, namely our own, somebody set up the Didymos and Dimorphos system as a binary, specifically as a time capsule for a future generation of developing technological humans here on Earth millions of years ago. And NASA went out and with its experiment apparently destroyed the time capsule. Why is that relevant? Because if you look at item number 3, this is something that occurred here on Earth just a couple years ago. Helicopter pilots working for the service, animal service management or environmental, I forget what the agency was of the state of Colorado, flying over a remote location of the canyon lands of Utah, spotted a bizarre aluminum 3-sided equilateral triangle. Anybody? 2-dimensional version of a 3-dimensional tetrahedron sitting in the middle of a little canyon in southeast Utah. They landed, and if you go into that story, that's from the local ABC affiliate 1 year later. They have a kind of an update as to what's happened. And we still don't know who set up the tetrahedron/monolith. We do know who went in and destroyed it, took it down. And so the whole thing kind of introduced me to the idea that maybe Utah, maybe these stunning canyon lands could be a terrestrial version of an ancient civilization or multiple terrestrial civilization time capsules. And many years ago, I'm hoping he will remember when, our own Keith Morgan, who's part of the show tonight, went to Utah, went to a place called Arches National Park, and took a bunch of photographs. And when he looked at them, he was struck years and years and years ago by the fact that the objects, the morphologies, the geoglyphs, the shapes, the forms that he was seeing just didn't look quite natural. But in fact, they appeared to have been made by some extraordinarily ancient, because of all the erosion, human civilization here on Earth, one of the precursor civilizations that historians and academicians and others keep constantly denying, claiming we're the first high-tech civilization that Earth has ever produced. Not. So tonight what we're going to do is we're going to delve into the lore and history and possible discoveries to be made in the canyon lands of the great American Southwest with several interesting guests. As I said, Keith is going to talk first and tell us about when he took the pictures and why he was there, and if he can actually look at a date and say when he first noticed, because it was Keith who, independent of me looking at that photo, which is item number 3, said, good grief, in that little canyon around this monolith, there's all kinds of faces, there's glyphs, there's representations of recognizable forms, like someone was leaving some kind of mural history of some kind of totally lost history to current human ken. So without further ado, I want to introduce on air Keith Morgan, who, as you know, used to work for Ted Koppel for decades, and we're incredibly lucky to have him as our able AI and web person. Keith, when were you in Colorado, and when did you first realize that what you were looking at might not be natural?
I was visiting my son in Utah when the Federal Department of Transportation had him stationed there for like 3 years. And that was in August 2014.
Oh, okay. So it's relatively recent.
Yeah, and we drove down to Arches Park because he was up more or less by Salt Lake, Utah.
Now, wait, where is Arches Park relative to, let's say, like Denver?
It's really far south of Salt Lake. It took us, I think, a couple hours or something to get there.
Oh, so it's in the southeast corner.
Yeah. So we went down to that area. I'd never been there before. I didn't even know much about it. And we started looking at a lot of the stuff that they were pointing out that, hey, this is just a natural formation. It's the balanced rock. This is the castle. It looks like a castle out there in the distance and so on. And as I'm driving or driving around the area, I'm noticing stuff that just doesn't look like it's natural. I'm like, that looks like two statues back to back. It looks like Anubis sticking out one side and some other thing with a headdress on facing the opposite. And then I start seeing stuff etched into the walls, and I'm going, it looks like a tall Native American. He's looking over his left shoulder. You got the neck, the shoulders, the torso, and I took pictures of it. And the one that really got my attention was my wife was walking in front of me. I'm looking up on top of this butte, and here's what looks like a bust of Nefertiti with the Egyptian headdress on out the back. This thing is precariously balanced on this thin neck.
Oh, that's your image 2A.
Yeah, that's the 2A.
God, it really does look like Nefertiti.
And
complete with the royal Egyptian crown.
Yeah, and I'm blown away. We look at 2A, the exploded view. All I did was take Microsoft's 3D Paint, and I made a rectangle around these objects that I was interested in, and it extruded them to look like that. Okay, I didn't trace around them or anything. I just said, made a rectangle around it, and it extruded it, and that's the way they look. And next to her was this pedestal that had this little stub on the end, like there was a head or something on that, and it had corners and edges, and I said, that doesn't look natural. And I took that one wide shot, and then years later, when I was setting up a show for the other side of midnight, and I was putting my pictures together, and I was noticing that down below, one level below that, was this other structure. And I couldn't tell if it was a pillar or not because of the angle that I shot it at. But then later I found a second picture where I was actually standing closer underneath of it, looking up at it, and it was not connected to the back wall, which first I thought it was when I came back across this. Then I showed it to Jonathan Womack, who's our guest tonight, and he looks at it, and then he sees on the wall to the right of it what looks like this bird's head etched into the wall. It's got the eye, it's got the beak, it's got the neck. I'm looking at this going, there's no way you can have 4 out-of-place artifacts in one photograph in this one general area like that and say this is all natural. And then when I really got a good look at the pedestal that the vertical column was sitting on and got a good look at that, it looks like the balanced rock that is there in Utah in the Arches Park. But that's much bigger, but it looks like a fish head entity. Like it's got an eye, it's got a mouth, it looks like it's wearing some kind of helmet or something. And this looks similar to it, slightly different, but very similar to what that looks like. And I'm going, how can you get 2 different objects in the same general area looking almost identical? And the one in this picture is sitting on its own little pedestal. It's perfectly sitting on this pedestal. And I'm saying, this is not natural. This is, you can't dismiss this as natural. How do you get these objects sculptured this way with wind? There's no water. there was water, then how did it sculpt these things so perfectly? And the one with the Busta Nefertiti, it looks like, based on how that is precariously balanced, the wind should have broken it off or something long time ago, just like the balanced rock. It's huge, but it's sitting perfectly balanced on his little skinny neck and I'm going, that should have been taken out by wind or hurricane or some kind of force that would have knocked it over a long time ago, but nope. And it's weathered the time. When I started looking at the rest of this area, and I showed it to, Jonathan Womack, I started noticing other things. When it came down to the monolith, if we go back up to 1A or 1B, the 1B, there was this area at the monolith that had artwork on the walls. It had a little artwork, 3D artwork of an owl sitting up on a ledge. It had other artwork down at the bottom of looks like an Asian lady, and then to the left of her, there looks like somebody with a hooded robe over their head. And I'm going, am I reading stuff into this? And then the stuff next to it, above that, it looks like there's paint coming down the sides. And I keep looking at it, and I said, is this someone's hair that's coming down the side or what? But then there's also what looks like a caterpillar with long antennas sticking out of it. And I'm saying, I can't be reading all this into that. But it was the main stuff. And the reason I've got 1A and 1B is because I came across 1A the other day when I was looking for something. And this guy named Barry Goldberg, if that's his name, he was trying to demonstrate how you're in a dark cave, you can't see anything, but you turn the flashlight on and the rock reflects the light. Because people were talking about why is the moon reflecting light if it's a rock, and didn't make any sense, but this is the logic. Anyway, on that wall, if you click on that link and you zoom in on that picture, you will see this artwork on the wall. It looks like a book with a picture of a person on it that's got a collar and shoulders.
Oh, there's a definite rectangular geometry, on the left.
Yeah. And
it looks like a figure with some kind of crown in the middle of the book. Actually, there's more than one figure.
Yeah, and it looks like there's another figure that's holding the book up in some kind of almost like atlas or something. I don't know if that's real or just artifacting. But
looks like it has a symmetrical collar. Yeah, the main figure. Wow.
Yeah. And then in 1B, the Asian lady down at the bottom, which I have annotated, that kind of reminds me of the artwork that we're seeing in 1A. And I said, this is another coincidence again. I want to know where Barry took the picture at because he didn't say. And if it's in Utah...
Well, is he trying to protect the site? Because, if you make these things public, there's many times when people will just go and destroy. It's just, humans can be very weird.
Right. So, but then with the monolith, we'll go down to 3A. Oh, we're coming up on a break.
Yeah, we're very much at the bottom. In fact, we should actually probably stop right now. My first guest this morning is our own Keith Morgan, and we're talking about, we're talking about a bunch of stuff, but this is actually someone a long time ago did something to leave a message. A message to whom? Well, whoever would come after. And who's that? It's us. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. If you're on the other side of midnight, my name is Richard C. Hoagland. We shall return.
othersideofmidnight.com. Tune in to listen to Richard C. Hogland and his fascinating guests. Join Club 19.5 to get access to exclusive member benefits. Listen to past episodes anytime on any device. Search the archives of over 180 episodes. Membership costs $9.95 a month, 33 cents a day. Support the broadcast that provides you with the most interesting conversation available. Talk radio at the cutting edge of science and thought. theothersideofmidnight.com.
And welcome back, everyone, on this Sunday night, October 9th, 2022. Just weeks away from the Halloween revelations of the first official U.S. government congressionally mandated official report on UFOs. Of course, they call them something else now. They call them UAPs. But, God, what's going to be in this report? Halloween. Can you say War of the Worlds? Okay, tonight we're talking about something very distant from war. We're talking about time capsules. So Keith Morgan was in Utah in the fall of, late summer of 2014 visiting his son. And he and his wife Audrey took a trip down to the Arches National Park, which was a really good idea because it's incredibly spectacular. And he's wandering around with a camera. And remember, he's, television, eye for things and all that. And he's looking at this stuff. And he says, wait a minute. That doesn't look natural. So pick it up from there. Keith, unmuting helps.
Sorry about that. I was muted.
Okay. Go for it.
Yeah, when I first saw the two objects on top of the butte, I said, this does not look natural. And as we went around the area, there were other objects that just did not look natural. I finally saw where the main arch that a lot of their calendars and stuff have on it, and I'm looking at it from a distance. It was up on top of this mesa, but with it are all these dome-shaped objects. And I'm going, how did they get on the top of the mesa and get the shapes that they got? It didn't fit. I don't even think that arch is a natural formation. I think it was artificially created because on top of it is this disc that is sitting perpendicular to the it's almost like precariously balanced on top of this arch, and it's a disc. And I'm going, that does not fit the idea of this being natural. But I want to get to the monolith in Utah. When the pictures first started coming out and people started flocking into the area, and I'm watching the pictures come out of the area, I'm looking at the main one, 3A, and I'm going, and nobody sees the freaking puma head sticking out the wall on the left side. And I'm like, that's obvious. That is so obvious. And then I kept looking to the right, and I'm seeing something on the right side of it that's got like this nice, clean S-curve. And I'm going, what the heck am I looking at? But I couldn't figure out what it was. But when I get to 3C, I'll tell you what it was. And then we get 3B, and the 3B is from Mars.
Good old Perseverance rover, yep.
Yeah, and in that picture is what they call the balanced rock. It's sitting on this sloping pedestal. It should have rolled off or something like that, but it's been sitting there for whatever. And then down below it, it looks like the head of Optimus Prime. It's a transformer. Anyway, but then I'm looking at what's on the wall to the right of it, and I'm going, nobody sees the snake head sticking out the wall?
Or a big crocodile.
Well,
to me,
actually,
it looks more like a crocodile.
Well, when I actually got to look at it closer and better, it's the head of a badger. And not only is the head there, it's not only the head of the badger, but the arm or claw or paw of the badger is sticking out below that.
I wondered what a badger was, so you need to replace the G with a D in the caption.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry.
No problem.
So the slope on the nose of the badger, all of it's there. I thought it was a snake, and somebody actually wrote an article about, what about the snake head sticking out the wall there? But what is behind that to the right is a much bigger structure.
Yep.
And it's a huge sculpture of a Gila monster.
Mm.
I mean, I'm going, and you got the arm and everything right there, and I'm going, nobody sees this stuff. People look, but they don't see. And that's what drives me crazy. Oh, you're just reading stuff into it. You can't read those many things into these areas. Now, when we get to 3C, these guys from the
Park Service, I think they were.
Park Service, yeah. They took pictures looking down into this little valley area. And now I could see that wall on the right side, and it's a freaking cat head.
It's a kitty. It's a big kitty.
Nobody sees this.
Meow.
And then when the idiots came and tore down the monolith, then someone took a picture looking straight at the puma head. I'm calling it a puma head. You said it looks like a dinosaur, so did my wife, but it's puma head to me. But in the right, there's an alcove on the right side of the puma head, and in there is a etching or sculpture of an eagle, and you can see the talons, the wings, and it's in that little alcove. And I'm going, okay, here we go. We got a cat, we got a puma, we got an eagle, and up above the eagle is what looks like a panda or something, and I'm going, there's too many things grouped together here.
Well, yeah, you have all these familiar animals etched supposedly by random erosion in one little canyon that, for God's sake, somebody decided to put a huge three-dimensional version of a tetrahedron as a column, as a monolith, to mark something important about this site.
Yeah. So 3D is showing the picture that the Park Service took looking down into from up above. The 3E is the Park Service down at the level looking from a different angle.
Right. With a much better camera.
Yeah, but now you can see on the right side, you can see what makes up the face of the cat. But then to the left, where the two guys are walking, and one guy is closest to this boulder sitting out there, and I've got other pictures of the boulder at a different angle, it does not belong there. It looks like a monkey face, a huge monkey face, like it was a head of something.
Well, it also looks artificial. It's got geometry. It looks like it was a cut stone that someone then carved an effigy on the front facing the guy in the green park uniform.
Right. And it also has, it looks like some kind of headdress on or something. The way it's, the back curves is perfect curvature on the back. And I'm going, these things can't be all natural. Now, I'm rushing through this because Jonathan's got some great stuff. And when we got started on this, and I pointed all the stuff out to him, he flew. And he started getting stuff off of Google Earth and other places and other pictures from other people. And he put all the pieces together. and he's got enough to tell you about the alignments, the solstice alignments, and the sunrises and so forth that align the way these things are laid out, because this is ancient artwork and construction in this area.
It's a time
Utah.
capsule, or frankly, probably a series of time capsules. No single point failure. So.
Okay. So I want to get John on and start doing his thing, because he's got some really interesting stuff. And if you click on the Fast Items Jonathan, it'll take you to the page that I put all of his stuff on, and then you can watch this, watch him go through all of his stuff. But it's what he's found. He brought me to tears when he did the animation, when I told him that pillar behind the balanced rock looked like there's an elephant in there. And he did an animation with an elephant that was actually moving, and he zoomed into it and kind of overlaid it over top of it, and it brought me to tears. I was like, "This is exactly what we're looking at here." And he's flown. He's come up with so much stuff now. It is. I don't see how anybody could look at this evidence and go, "This is just natural."
Well, we've got to get what's his name, Steve Walter, to take this seriously. So we probably need a conference call, John. And let me formally introduce you, okay? Because we had Steve on the show a couple of times, and I got him kind of intrigued with the monolith in Utah Canyon, but he's inundated, so his attention.
Scott. You mean Scott Walter?
Scott. I'm sorry. What did I say? Stephen? Yeah, Scott. So his attention wandered, and we've got to get it focused back on this, because unless someone with the right reputation begins to do serious science, none of the other stuff that you guys are doing is going to be, taken seriously, and it's long overdue. So let me give a kind of a formal introduction. Jonathan Womack, among his many notables, and you can go to the other side of midnight and click on bios, and it'll take you to John's bio and to Keith's bio and to George's bio, and we're hoping that we might have a little look in by Maria Wheatley tonight. She's in England, and she's been kind of jet lagged, having been away on travel, so we may or may not have her tonight, but we'll have her on this for a future show. Getting back to John. John is an experiencer directly with out-of-body experiences, and we've done a couple of shows profiling those. He's also a generalist, like our friend Ron Gerbron. He is a exquisitely talented 3D computer CGI person, an expert. He hosts a website. He actually has a podcast, which we'll talk about a bit. And he has been very interested in terrestrial ancient archaeology, because he, like all the rest of us gathered here, do not believe that 20th century or 21st century human civilization is the epitome of human progress, but in fact we're coming up the curve of folks that were here before us and left really extraordinary stuff. So, John, why don't you pick it up there? Actually talk about how your interest segued from Keith's direct experience and where we are tonight, because you've come a long, long way, baby.
Yes, Richard, this has brought me full cycle, because when I was 9 years old, I lived in Indiana, and my family took a trip. Our neighbors had moved out to Colorado, to miles outside of a town called Elbert, 180 people, just a little,
oh my God.
Yeah.
If you blink on the highway, you miss it.
So we go out to visit them, and they have this ranch. It was so awesome. I loved it, and I went out of body, and I'm flying around the mountains, and I notice what looks like monuments, murals, the whole thing. And, that was 50-some years ago.
Now, wait, you're 9, right?
I'm 9 years old, and another cool
Had
thing
anybody ever talked to you about ancient monuments in Utah?
No, this was in the 1960s, so all of this, this was before Eric von Daniken, this was before any of this stuff. And another cool thing is we took a Jeep ride through Cripple Creek Mines, and the catalog, or they give you the guidebook, it has we're riding up this Womack Hill, and we're telling the guy driving the Jeep, yeah, that's our name, Womack. And you look on the page, and it's Robert Womack with the handlebar mustache. So my brother Bob's like, hey, that's me. And indeed, he ended up moving out there to Colorado, and I've had two other brothers followed him out there. So we have some kind of tie. And then when I found this, this Anunnaki stuff, I felt like I know this place. I know this place. I've been here. I know this place.
Okay, so let's start with item number one. And for everybody who needs to know how to get there, you go to theothersideofmidnight.com. You click on tonight's banner, which is Queen Hera. That will take you to the guest page. Under the banner on the guest page, you see fast links to items. Keith has prepared an entire soul page because Jonathan has a lot of images. Click on that. That will take you to his guest page. The first one says Courthouse Tower, Arches National Park. Take it away.
Yeah, these images are highlights from a webinar I have coming up on November 3rd. You can get tickets at jonathanwomack.com. They're $750. I'll be going into detail. I'll be doing a series, one on Park Ave, one on the Balanced Rock Complex, another on Delicate Arch. I've been studying these places for the last year and a month. Since Keith showed those, it was August of last year when Keith showed those photos, and I just went, my mouth fell open, and I'm seeing all this stuff leap out at me. I'm like, oh my God, I have to stop what I'm doing. My whole life is like coming to it. This is a change. So it was a big deal. And so number one there, you see the Courthouse Tower, and I put a little red triangle there because we're going to be looking at Courthouse Tower, that when you see these triangular slits in the rocks, it's a sure sign that is an alignment.
So these are kind of like rifle sights that someone has carved into the bedrock.
Yes, but behind you see the Tower of Babel. This is the name. It's funny, some of the names that the Rangers come up with, because I just find it interesting, because when you find out what you're really looking at, you're like, that's funny. So anyway, the Tower of Babel there, these two structures mark this grand avenue that is coming down here, and it leads to this monument of these three kings. And then you can either take a right and go to I'm calling it the Grand Gallery, or you can take a left and walk down Park Ave. So
now were these names given by the park rangers?
Yes, Courthouse and Tower of Babel. That's by the Rangers. Yeah.
Huh. I wonder why they attach those names.
So number two, there's a few images here from the movie Oblivion with Tom Cruise. I'm not giving away any spoilers, but this is after a war with aliens. This is years, this is in the future. And he lives in this cloud apartment up in the clouds, and he's like a maintenance guy, and they send him down to check stuff here and there. And nobody really lives on Earth, but so he's found a couple places that he likes. One is the New York Library, and in item 4 you can see the top of that, and the ground, you notice, is at the top of the library, and that's what Arches Park is. They say how all these monuments came to be is that the ground used to be at the top of these monuments back when the dinosaurs were here, and then over time it eroded away from wind and rain, and it left all these monuments. And I know for a fact that's a bunch of hogwash, and it makes me sick that we have this travesty that these Anunnaki left us this legacy for us to find and decode and come reunion with them. And so anyway, so Oblivion, you have the ground's way up to the top. Tom Cruise, he finds books, and he goes to the Yankee Stadium. He's read about baseball, and so he's got these favorite places. And of course, then in 5 and 6 is the Empire State Building, and then number 7 you have the bridge there.
The gold, the probably George Washington.
George Washington, I would think. Yeah.
Looks like
so
it.
7A is just you can find many
So
maps.
these are in this actually it's a very good movie. Rob and I saw it a long time ago. What's interesting is that it depicts accurately ancient technology that's been buried and thereby preserved, that has been relatively recently eroded, exposed to where it's recognizable as ancient architecture and technology.
Yes. Yep. Very apropos. Oh, in 7A, it's just a map. I mean, in 7A, this map doesn't even have Arches is on the top edge, just out of the picture. It's next to Canyonlands, but it just shows all these other parks, you know, way down to the left corner in Sedona. That's all Anunnaki monuments. All these places, Monument Valley, I am going to do a ridiculous. Oh my gosh, I spent some time there, and it's you know, it just blows your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I make a comment about number 2? Because remember, I said I was looking at it.
Let me go back to number 2.
It looks like a crater, and I was going to put a comment in there because I thought it was some area that I didn't know about. I was going to put
it's the movie. It's the movie. I looked at it and I thought, holy cow, John, what have you found? And
because it had a lot of geometry and structure. I'm
going,
you have to zoom in to see it, though.
Well, this is a complete diversion, except it's not. You remember that photograph, John and Keith, taken by the Gemini astronauts way back in the Gemini program when they were just experimenting around with taking a color camera and some Kodak film and taking photographs of the Earth from orbit? I mean, that seems so obvious now. Back then, it was like a big deal. It's like they didn't know whether they'd even come out, whether they'd see anything. It was all very experimental. And the guys literally, I mean, John Glenn went out for his mission on Mercury. He went to a drugstore and bought an off-the-shelf little throwaway camera to take pictures in space because NASA had no idea that pictures would be important. It's really bizarre. Anyway, from the Gemini program, they looked down in Africa and they saw this huge circular tiered, what they call the Ricard structure. And it's been a mystery for decades and decades and decades. Frankly, Ruggiero and I have been doing some quiet work, and he probably will talk about it some night. I think this is Atlantis. It's got all the geometry of ancient Plato's description of Atlantis, and it has all the geometry that you see in your number 2, John, except it's for real part of a movie on a huge scale.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Earth seems to be littered with ancient evidence that we are not the first. And it's being rigorously denied by everybody who can deny it. Because remember, we're in prison. We're not supposed to know we're not the first.
Yeah, this is all over the Earth. Now, not the Arches, though. This is a unique place on the Earth. There's no other place like Arches Park with all these. There's 2,500 arches. It's on the most stable plateau on Earth, the Colorado Plateau. There's no earthquakes. It's in a dry region, so you get these monsoons, but it's very dry and air. They wanted this place to last a very long time so that we would find it and decode it and then come ring on their doorbell. So item number 8 is just looking down from Google Earth. Anybody listening can download Google Earth Pro for free and open it up, and you can follow us along if you like and look around yourself. I encourage everybody to go there.
Oh, I was hoping you would do this because I love maps. It orients you. So.
Yeah, and anybody can do this. I hope people will be inspired to look at these places from my work and then hopefully expand on it. Now, number 9 is just another overview. We're going to be spending most of our time in the red circle, which is Park Avenue, and I put you see a rectangular inset inside the red circle. That's to point out the spot that in all of planet Earth even, but in Arches Park, I mean, this is all over the American West, but this spot here in Park Ave is very key because if we want to decode the technology behind the portals to to go meet again with the Anunnaki, we need a key code. We need to find, and this is where I found it. So, number 10 is another overview. You can see Park Avenue there. A is what I'm calling at first I was calling it the Horus mural, because that big bird on it, like Keith said, this is where Keith saw this. He calls it the Nefertiti head. You know, it's not Nefertiti, it's more Hera, but yeah, it looks like Nefertiti. So the Nefertiti's there, and then behind it, like Keith said, I said, Keith, look at that mural. There's a giant bird, his horse, and you got all this stuff. So I've been spending, like I said, the last year decoding all of this, and made some astonishing discoveries. And so in A, we have the Hera mural, this cliff wall mural, and B is the key code. So those 2 points. And then C and D are showing you that they use these targeting sites. What they do.
To D. Okay, there we are.
It's like this collector technology. I'm calling it light sonics. You have to call it something, but it's collecting and manipulating light and sound to do things for them, these Anunnaki. It's part of their technology. We don't have this. It's very advanced, but this is giving us insights into their technology. So C and D are these sights like on a rifle when you aim at something. And then up in the right corner, you see a green circle with E. That is the south window arch in the Balanced Rock complex. There are 7 arches right in there, the big arches. So this is a very complex arcology where there's some serious technology going on. But when the sun comes up, it shines through there, and that dark blue beam comes through the B in Arches Park. That wall is like a partition, and it has all these kind of lenses and cutaways where light is passing.
So there's sight lines and there's holes cut in the rock, so you look from one to the other, and it focuses your attention on a narrow field of view that you're supposed to pay attention to.
Exactly. And the blue beam is shining on.
And now, obviously, the odds of this happening by chance and nature and erosion is crapola.
Yeah, it's astronomical. So moving on, 11 is another view of Arches Park. We're looking over the top.
Yeah, we basically have 30 seconds, so let's reach a stopping point here, okay?
Okay.
So my guest this morning is Jonathan Womack, and Keith has been out here. He was alerted to the idea that these things are not exactly natural as far back as 2014. And we're talking basically about ancient terrestrial time capsules left by maybe the same folks that left Didymos and Dimorphos as aligned time capsules across half the solar system. And NASA went out the other day and promptly destroyed them. Do you think they did it by design, or was it just a really dumb accident? You're on the other side of midnight. My name is Richard C. Hoagland. We shall return.
theothersideofmidnight.com. Tune in to listen to Richard C. Hoagland and his fascinating guests. Join Club 19.5 to get access to exclusive member benefits. As a Club 19.5 member, you'll gain access to the rest of this show and all previous 350 episodes. Membership costs $9.95 a month, 33 cents a day. Support the broadcast that provides you with the most interesting conversation available. Talk radio at the cutting edge of science and thought. theothersideofmidnight.com.
And welcome back, everyone, on this Sunday night, October 9th, 2022, where we're waiting for the results from NASA of their inadvertent, oblivious, completely mindless destruction of what I and a lot of the people here have independently come to believe is some kind of extraordinary ancient time capsule left in space in the asteroid belt for us that NASA really seemed to have totally destroyed. And we'll find out whether they're going to admit anything that they've really done on Tuesday, and I would not hold your breath. However, the good news is that these extraordinarily ancient far-seeing ancestors seem to have had as their mantra the same mantra that NASA used to practice, which was no single point failure. So they have scattered across the earth, and we're talking about only one small location tonight in the Western American state of Utah, where extraordinary stuff of extraordinary age and extraordinary importance has been left for us. So, John, pick up the story, please.
Sure. Let's go to item number 11A. It just shows you when you enter the trail into the avenue. This is on the left side of this avenue, and you have the Nefertiti head, and beyond that is the Hera mural, and at the far end is, I call it the Hall of Gods.
You know what this reminds me of?
What?
Andrew, if you're listening, you might want to call in, because this looks like some of the stuff left on the sides of Temple Butte in Jezero Crater on Mars, photographed by Perseverance. It's eerily similar.
I would not doubt that at all, because this is all...
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and look at the Hall of Gods at the end there. I mean, that place is magnificent.
You mean on the right?
Yeah, on the right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look at those
stunning
panels. They look like pre-cut panels where you're supposed... I'll bet they tell some kind of sequential story.
Yeah.
But they're
absolutely.
very, very old. Have you got any idea, based on any real science, as to how old this stuff could be?
They seem to be, like you said, it's hard to date rocks. So the theories are this could be 1 million years old. But from what Keith said about the Anunnaki, they came here 400 or 50,000 years ago. So I'm thinking that's probably, that could be the date of what we're looking at. And number 12 is, again, the Queen Hera mural with the, this Horus bird. And number
12. Hang on. Let me look at number 12.
I'm going to go through these quickly because it's a lot, and I got to get to the revelations.
Right. There's good old Nefertiti at the top in the middle. Okay.
Yeah. And
now what did you call this? What are we supposed to look for?
Number 12?
Yeah.
Well, I'm calling this cliff wall the Hera mural. I was calling it the Horus mural,
right?
Because of the bird, and I found obvious statues of Horus around the park. So that's who that is. And but now I see at the top crest of that cliff wall in number 12 is Hera's face, and you have that nice crest there. She's right in there. So, and then number 13, you're looking down the same trail, Park Avenue, and on the right you can see that partition with these cutaways in the wall. And then number 13, this great hall, this Hall of the Gods. It's really beautiful. And these places, they're not just, they didn't just build these representations of their home world. They left us chambers inside as well. They left us some treasures. So
how do we know that?
I'm telling you this now so that when it comes out.
But how do you know that?
Because I've been there out of body.
So you visited in an out of body experience. Okay, then
yeah,
nothing to be ashamed of. Full disclosure.
For example, I went looking for arches around the world, and I found, get this, the Delicate Arch has a twin sister arch, and it's on the exact opposite side of the planet. Now, the Delicate Arch is one of the features in this park, right? It is. We'll get to that soon. I'm just going to touch on it. That needs a whole show. The place is incredibly amazing, and the technology and everything. So that's for another show. But let's see, number 14. Now we're looking back at the opposite direction at the beginning of the trail. And Nefertiti's on the right there in that little castle area. And on the left is that partition with the cutaways. And then you can see, I'm calling it the Anubis chamber because they have all these chambers around, outdoor chambers that are collecting the sun and sound they manipulate it into doing something. I believe they're healing chambers and more. There's more to it than just healing. So that's the Anubis chamber, and I touch on this. Now, if we hang on this just for a minute, if you look on the lower left-hand side, just a bit to the left of the center, there's a human figure. You see him or her? Mm-hmm. Wearing a brown jacket and jeans. That's about halfway to that circular hemispherical panoply up above, giving you a sense of the scale. Let's assume that's a 5.5 foot figure. The scale of this is extraordinary. Now, let me see if I can share with you. If you were standing up on that little stage there, I'm calling the Anubis chamber. It's like a stage area, it's flat kind of. And then you have this opening where the blue light, you can see blue light coming in through this vertical slot. On the left side of that slot, there's an Anunnaki face. That's Enki right there, his face. You can, his nose and his mouth, his eye. You can see him looking to the right. Now, I've got to where I spot these things pretty easily. And I do highlight it later in my presentation. Now, what do you say to people who look at this and they just see rocks and they don't see anything that you see? Well, you can't say anything to those people, but a lot of people in the videos I watch on YouTube, the vacation videos, I'm encouraged by the number of people that go, "That's ruins." And I go, "Yes, thank you." There's people awake and aware, and there's the guy who put the monolith over in Canyonlands, the Utah monolith you were talking about earlier. I have some background information on that too. So let's wait. We know who put the monolith in that canyon? No. I feel I know why they put it there. So number 15, that's another view there of there's some wall. Kind of number 6. Yeah. No, number 16 and 17. Well, there's some obvious manufactured stuff kind of in the middle of the picture sticking up against the blue sky. Yeah. I mean, there's just all kinds of what look to be carvings or deliberate geometry. Oh, God, yes. So but number this stuff 16 is so old, John. I mean, this is really old. There's some urgency because 2 of the arches have collapsed, and in 1972, part of Balanced Rock collapsed. It's this fishman or whatever you want to call him. It's his heir to the throne, and he fell over and collapsed. And it's an alignment. It's a solar alignment. When the sun comes up and the and on the head of the thing, and that fell over. So there's some urgency. We don't want delicate arch to collapse before we can use it. We got to figure it out and ring the doorbell, and everything changes when we do that. Now, number 16 and 17 is from August. I was on your show, Richard. You asked me to tease a few images, and so I laid some of this out. In number 16, I guess what I really want to point out is on the right side, I show the long skull woman bust, or Nefertiti, as Keith calls it. To the left of her, I have a yellow circle highlighting her husband. I'm calling him Enki, the guy that runs, these people are featured in these sections of Arches Park. I'm getting to know these people. So I'm calling him Enki because that's kind of seems to be the big daddy of the Anunnaki there. So you can see his head there. He's looking to the right. They're very stern looking. They all look the same, this race of Anunnaki people. And then below him, in these rocks, you have his heirs. You have the daughter, and the long skull man bust is actually his son. So they're very family oriented because they have their families portrayed in this stuff. So like on the left, I saw this Anubis bust, and that's how I found the Anubis chamber. And Sun Slot A is part of this key code I was talking about.
Are we still on 17?
We're still on 16.
16, okay.
Yeah. So 17 just shows, an Anunnaki there sitting on the throne, and that's on that same wall there. Just to the right of image 16 now we're looking at. And I highlighted that because every inch of these, right above a certain line of the ground, you have like the foundation of these structures, and then everything above that is sculpted. Now, number 18, again, we're looking back at the trailhead beginning. You come walking through the trail here. And on the right, I've highlighted 3. Let me move this here. When you see these type of slots, again, this is a sure sign that there is an alignment. They're alignment happy, and if you could put magic glasses on and look down in Arches Park, you'd see all these lights all going around, different frequencies, red, blue, yellow, all the colors of the rainbow, and they're manipulating all of these frequencies for their benefits. And the left one is a triangle. I put a triangle there, a yellow triangle. And then the middle one you have, it's kind of a triangle again. And then on the right you have this. It reminds me of when a director holds up his hands in front of his face. He puts
it's like framing.
Framing.
But in order to see what's being framed, you have to be standing in midair, 500 feet above the floor of the canyon, don't you?
On top of the Hera mural. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Because that's where it's pointing at is her face. And the other end of that, well, I'm going to show you that just in a minute here. Number 19 is a close-up of that. Number 20.
Hang on. Oh. Don't go so fast. Gosh.
Okay.
19. People need time to savor these.
Well, you can come back, and I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel. So this will be, you can come back. I'm hurrying because you can come back and look at them at your leisure. I want to get through them so I can get out these revelations and inspire people to find other discoveries and so forth. So number 20, this is looking at that frame that you just said you need to be 500 feet up. And you see it's pointing right at.
Now, where in the picture is the frame? Oh, there it is with the yellow. Okay.
Yellow rectangle.
Right. So when you look through that frame, you're framing that mural behind it. That's that cliff.
Yes, and you're framing a particular spot. It's her face. And when you look from the other direction, it's on the Enki mural, and it's Enki's face. So they're together.
You keep calling this the Queen Hera mural. In fact, this whole thing tonight, the show is, Queen Hera on Park Avenue. Hera, of course, is the name of the European mission going back to Didymos in 2 years. Tell everybody the potential connection.
Hera is the mother in Greek mythology, the mother of humanity.
Okay.
Yes.
Ding, 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 ding.
If you're a DC fan, Wonder Woman always says, "Great Hera." And I figure, Hera is the Anunnaki
Well, then
mother.
the question obviously comes up, why did the Europeans call the follow-on mission to Didymos Hera if it's just two rocks orbiting each other randomly? In other words, did they know it's a time capsule, or it was?
Good question. Yeah. All right, let's move on to number 21. This shows
cool.
you from the Queen Hera mural. You're looking back through that same frame. The
little
yellow
square is your sight line, okay. Under the so-called Enki mural.
There's the Enki mural. I mean, I'm just calling it. Most of these places, I've had to come up with 1,000 different names. I'm going to have to start doing alphanumeric.
Gosh,
I'm running out of names. It's so ridiculous. Everywhere you look, you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. So
Google is your friend.
Let's move on to anybody can do this with Google Earth or Google Earth Pro. I like Google Earth Pro because they have a sundial feature where you can move this time dial through the minutes and hours of the day, and it shows the sun moving across the sky. And
so wait, you mean they put in the program multiple images of these same objects at different times of day? So when you move the sundial, you're literally calling up from an archive different images which synthesize the sun's movements and the shadow movements and all that, right?
Yeah. Now, they don't have the moon. They probably will at some point, but this has allowed me to find. I was looking for the sacred aperture that I saw during an OBE, and I couldn't find it, and I just had to put it away for a while, and I'm working with Maria. I'm producing Maria's documentary on Stonehenge, and so I went, like a month without, and then last month, 9/23, September 23rd, the fall equinox, I go, this is a good time to go back, and they had the sundial, and that is when I found the sacred aperture and the key code.
What do you mean, a sacred aperture?
I'm going to get to that in a few more slides. So let's
but you have to define what you're talking about. What's a sacred aperture?
I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. You have to wait. So number 22 is a bit misnumbered. We're actually looking down at the sacred apertures from the top, but we will come back to that because I guess I misnumbered that. Number 22A, this is a quick alignment with the courthouse towers. I showed you in my very first slide, I put a red rectangle in this slot. And it's, like I said, a sure sign that it's an alignment. I'm going to show you that alignment now. So number 23, we're looking at through the courthouse towers from, behind it, I guess now, from the opposite angle. We're looking down into Park Avenue. And I think you see where this is going. The queen bust and her family forms a wedge. It's like almost a triangular foundation. And they form this wedge that is pointed directly at courthouse towers, and right at that slot, it like fits that slot. It's crazy. So let's go to 24. I've zoomed in a bit more with the camera on Google Earth, and you can again see where I'm going with this, I'm sure. Number 25. Now, number 25.
This reminds you of that old movie. It's Tuesday. It must be Belgium. It's an old traveling joke.
Number 25, I paused to consider if I'm dialing in on the right monument, because as you move the camera around, you kind of get, there's the Nefertiti is on the right side. The arrow is pointing to the Nefertiti head, and you got her family there, that wedge, it's pointing. But you also have, I call it the Park Avenue end cap, that partition wall that we've been looking at. This is the end of that wall, and it's an extraordinary spot. And I wondered, but I've come to the decision that no, this is aligned to the Nefertiti head. But number 25A is an actual photograph of the Park Ave end cap, and you can see these stunning sculptures that are staring down at at us. So it seems so obvious to me. Number 26. So here I am. I've closed another close-up of the courthouse tower slot, and you can on the left side is the end cap of Park Ave. In the middle area is the Nefertiti head and the wedge, and on the right you can just see the Hera, Queen Hera mural kind of sticking out there. So those three artifacts there, and just looking at it, and you're lining up the camera, and number 27 really lines it up, and it's right on. You know, if you get the camera level and straight and all this kind of thing. And
so when you say get the camera, you mean that Google Earth has a three-dimensional fly-through model that's animated that has taken like Google Earth surface views and put them all into a program so you can literally fly around 3D Arches National Park.
Yeah, they take pictures. They use a software called photogrammetry, and they'll take a picture from like the front, the side, and the top.
Well, they must have taken drones up there and taken aerial imagery.
Yeah, and then the computer actually does its AI, and it puts together in a 3D image. It's very low poly. You know, there's not very many polygons, so it's low resolution. And that's why I go to YouTube and watch their vacation videos, and then I can see the actual what it looks like and the details. So number 28. Okay, now I'm going to show you that blue line alignment from slide 10, I guess that was. We're looking back at Arches Park now from South Window Arch. Now these two arches are called, this is in the Balanced Rock Complex, and they're called window arches, but I believe they're windows to the soul. These are the eyes of, if it's not Queen Hera, it's Enki or somebody like that, because, you know, this is all part of a story. This is looking over her, you know, she's the mother of humanity, according to the stories. So this is all telling the story. Now we're looking back, and you can see in the distance, there's that partition wall of Park Ave with the cutaway. I call it Sun Slot A. And just to the left of that is where I found the sacred aperture that was hidden until I found it last month. And then I circled Petrifying Dunes Heelstone. That's what I'm calling that, because I think there is Stonehenge's modern architecture. That's modern construction compared to what we're looking at now. But I do think there is a connection. And you can see this, you know, it's out in the middle of this flat land through here is called the Petrified Dunes by the park rangers. And there are a few of these Heelstone type markers, because you know, as soon as you see something like that sticking up, you know it's part of solar or lunar alignment. 28A is a real picture of the south window looking through there. You know, a human standing there is really tiny. This thing is huge. And
so what are we seeing in the middle of the eye or the window? What is that other striking set of objects beyond?
That's turret arch. And
I see a figure to the upper left.
That's right.
Bilateral face, very grim guy.
That is an Anunnaki. That's his head.
I don't want to meet them in a dark alley at night. No way.
Yeah, they look very stern. They're kind of scary looking dudes. But yeah, the technology involved, what we're looking at here is just astounding. And that's why
your theory is that these sightlines, these openings in the rock, were literally carved or taken out with a beam or some kind of technology to produce these vistas and these sightlines to tell a larger tableau story.
And the story is so incredible. It's the greatest story ever told. 28B and 28C, I just took a picture of that heel stone so you can see a little better.
So this is in the computer reconstruction, and you can put sunrise at whatever season and then stand anywhere and look for alignments. Exactly. So number 29. Now this is the blue beam coming from the south window arch, and it crosses the petrified dunes, and it comes right through here, this sun slot A, as I call it. And to the left of that, I actually marked where the sacred aperture is. I'm just calling it that to have something that I got to call it something. And it's funny because you can't see it from this angle, and it was only because I was moving. This is that little V thing in the top of the structure, right? It's below that. You can't see it, but I'm highlighting that whole area, and it's actually below that. And it's an astonishing feature, and they hit it for... You mean there's a little peephole at the base at this? Yep. Is it human height? Is you're supposed to be able to walk along that cliff and look through it? No, you'd have to climb up to it, and these apertures... I mean, they're going to look small in the pictures, but, you know, a human could stand inside these apertures. Okay, all right. And so, as you can see, this blue beam hits directly on Nefertiti's head, and it's right on the side. I actually took a picture, number 30. I took a picture to show that flat side of her head, and that's right where the beam is hitting. So... And number 31 is another picture. You can see right where this beam would hit this flat side of her face. And whether you're going to see that light up, now at certain times of day it's going to light up. This is happening every day where certain things are lighting up at certain times of the day. But you might not see it because Maria was the one that pointed out to me, we were talking about this, and she mentioned, I don't remember the guy's name, but he's a geomancer, and he said at dawn, these kind of sites will capture red long wave light and, you know, send it somewhere or that kind of thing. And I go, that's what we're seeing here at Arches Park is all this light coming through here, and they're directing it. And, tell you what, we are at the bottom of the hour. Oh. My guest this morning is Jonathan Womack, and we're going to be joined shortly by Georgia Lambert. I guess Maria's still gently snoozing, which is good. You know, she needs it. And, of course, Keith is standing by. You can chime in anytime you want, Keith. This is, you've been there. I haven't. Oh, I'm so envious. Anyway, guys, we're talking about ancient time capsules here on Earth and the connecting glue in terms of John's overview of Queen Hera, laid out on the canyon walls of this extraordinary Arches Park National Monument, is the connection to the European mission back to Didymos and Dimorphos in 2 years, just coincidentally called the Hera mission. What did they know, and when did they know it? We shall return.
TheOtherSideOfMidnight.com. Tune in to listen to Richard C. Hoagland and his fascinating guests. Support the broadcast and don't miss another groundbreaking conversation. Join Club 19.5 to get access to exclusive member benefits. Listen to past episodes anytime on any device. Search the archives of over 180 episodes. Membership costs $9.95 a month, 33 cents a day. Talk radio at the cutting edge of science and thought. TheOtherSideOfMidnight.com.
And welcome back, everyone, on this Sunday night, October 9th. We're delving into time capsules, incredibly, impossibly old, ancient ancestors, if the model is correct, time capsules, left by maybe not just one predecessor civilization, but maybe a succession of civilizations. If we only could date the erosion we see in Arches Park. You know, there's actually, John, a technology which I learned from, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He did a lot of work in Egypt on the Sphinx, and I'm blanking on his name at the moment.
Is it Schoen, the guy from BU?
No. It'll come to me. Anyway, he and I were discussing how you could date the samples of rock that he casually, kind of clandestinely picked up around the Sphinx enclosure. And we were talking about...
You're talking about Robert Schoch?
Robert Schoch. Thank you.
Schoch, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were talking about cosmic ray dating, because if you carve rock and you expose what's underneath, the uncarved rock next to it will have a certain cosmic ray exposure age based on secondaries that are, coming down from the atmosphere, from cosmic rays hitting the Earth's atmosphere from space, from the galaxy, and, some is solar radiation and all that. The carved parts will be younger. So if you can find a pristine part and get a kind of a baseline, you could conceivably, if you took little core samplings, like a dotted matrix, like a bunch of dots, little tiny holes, almost like dentist drill holes, you might be able to get a cosmic ray dating of how ancient these murals and structures and monoliths and friezes really are. And I'm with you.
Well, I'm going to contact him, Richard. It was Maria's idea.
Yeah, by all means.
I'm going to contact him and Scott Walter. That's why I was so excited about this show. And then I can send it to him and say, check this out. Let's get busy. Yeah. Okay, number 32. I'm just going to show another quick alignment. And I show this red line coming through this avenue. And it shoots through the petrified dunes across there, and it goes to the partition at Park Avenue that we've been looking at. And then number 33, this is the area where it's coming from. It's called Fish Seep Draw. They just incorporated this into the park a couple of years ago. And it's too bad because I've only found one person that on YouTube, the guy's channel, he's got like a couple 100,000, he travels around the parks, and it's called SUV-ing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we know how he travels. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was so cool. There's a new story because I'm watching the video.
Have you reached out to any of these people and said, hey, got any outtakes that you haven't put up?
Yeah.
Or are you going back and would you take some videos specifically for this project?
Well, I contacted him. Let me tell you the story. I'm watching the video because I got so excited. I found somebody that's going to Fish Seep Draw with a camera. So I'm watching. And of course, it's just, everything's stunning to look at. I'm blown away. He's walking around like, I'm thinking, does he get it? Or
does he know what's behind him?
Does he know? Does he get it? Or is he just walking? It just looks cool. So he's walking along and he comes to He goes to a couple arches, but when he comes up to, it's a small arch. And the definition of an arch is any arch that's 3 meters or larger. So, no, I'm sorry, 3 feet. I get it. It's 1 meter.
That's a meter, yeah.
Yeah, 1 meter. So he comes up to this 1 meter arch, and it's just off the ground, up to your knees or something. And it's 3 feet wide, and you can see, there it is.
And it's just like a
arch.
hole in a certain thickness rock face, right?
Yeah, a little hole in a little wall.
Well,
rock,
I wouldn't say 3 feet is little, but you're looking from one side. You're looking through clear to whatever the vista is behind, right?
Yes, and he's standing there and he's talking. He's like, "Hey, it's really cool." And then he stops. You can see the look on his face. It's confusion. He doesn't understand what's happening, and he goes, "Wow, what was that? Did you hear that?" And he's going, "Echo, echo."
Oh.
I've never heard anything like that before. That is so bizarre. And he's standing, so his voice is. It's going into the rock, but then he can also hear it. He's hearing the interdimensional echo of his own voice, and he can't figure out. He's never heard anything like this before. He doesn't understand what.
We don't know it's interdimensional.
Well, it's
John.
something
Come on.
like that. He's hearing his
when
voice.
When Robin and I went to Chaco Canyon with her son Michael, I'm measuring alignments, and they're off in another part of the canyon, and I hear these extraordinary sounds. And I go running down this long trail, and they're both standing there, and they're yodeling. And because you have these rounded amphitheaters, the sound is coming back. And Maria and I talked about one night setting up a sound experiment at Stonehenge, because one of the ways to raise the hyperdimensional frequency is through focused resonant sound. And if these guys were as smart as we think they were, this is a trigger for a consciousness-raising resonance phenomenon. So you're partly right. There is a hyperdimensional component, but it's all in 3D to be a trigger.
Yeah, that's right. Good way to put it. So then I contacted him to see if I said, we're doing this Oumuamua thing. And I think the next place to go is Delicate Arch. Would you be interested? We'd send you a radio, instructions how to use it. You send the signal through the arch and then record.
That's a cool idea.
And he thought I was, wearing a white straitjacket.
Oh, you gotta be kidding! How can he be surrounded by all this and not have his own higher frequency experience?
I know.
Well,
He thinks I'm a weirdo.
Remember what Christ said. There are those who can't be so blind as those that will not see or hear.
Ah, yes.
So why is he doing pilgrimages if he doesn't get what he's looking at? Weird.
Yeah, it's just beautiful formations, and it's really cool. He's a cool dude, and he's thinking about getting more subscribers and all this kind of thing. He's not thinking about Anunnaki, not even.
No.
All right, let's go to number 34 is the next 34. Image. And
by the way, George is with us, okay? And
oh, cool.
She has some things that she probably wants to say, and Keith has some things he wants to say. So, George, if you want to jump in anytime.
I think Jonathan needs to roll for a bit and get through his stuff, and then I'll add an odd chunk.
Excellent. Okay. Go for it.
All right. This next image, number 34, this is the same alignment I'm just pointing out, where now the sun is coming through this partition, sun slot A, I call it, and the second green triangle in the background you see, I pointed that out before with a yellow triangle when I was showing you. When you see these slots, the light is going through there, it's going to shine on something. And just behind that is, Richard, you just talked about these audio amphitheaters.
Yeah, I called them amphitheaters because they seem to be designed to be acoustic amplifiers.
Yep. And this particular, I can't find another one like this. There's lots of acoustic amphitheaters around here, but this one is a double amphitheater.
Oh.
It's really cool.
So do you get a double echo?
I guess. I can't wait to move. I'm going to move out there and just spend, I'm going to go with camera drones and maybe some recording, sound
Since
equipment.
Your YouTube friend will not play nice.
That's right.
Oh, God.
So that alignment is shining. Maybe this guy is their engineer or the great scientist, Anunnaki dude. I don't know who he is, but it's a double amphitheater. Very cool. And all right, let's go to the next image. Is number 35. Oh, I'm just close. It's a close-up of that slot I was just talking about, and you can see through it. And if you happen to be on YouTube right now and you have Google Earth open, you can see what I'm talking about. You can just swivel around behind this wall of rock, and you will see that amphitheater and how cool it is, and just marvel at what the technology must be going on there and why it was created. It's something to do with healing, but it's more than that. And all right, let's go to number 36. Well, this is looking back from the other direction. We're looking right over.
So is that
right
petrified dunes monolith there in the back at the end of the red line?
That's I'm calling it the Enki lens because, like that standing, so like the heel stone I pointed out earlier, this is another feature where, like, delicate arch is pointed at. You have the fish seat draw. So this is like a standing stone marker.
Boy, that
solar
really
celestial.
does look like it was cut in the rock to look through.
And at the bottom of the image, if you could look down, you would see this double amphitheater that I'm talking about. And then you would see where this line comes right through there. Oh, and I marked that notch, the red notch, because it's a kind of a sideways notch into this, wall there. It's so cool because the beam would come right in through there. I mean, they have this sculpted to a T so that these lights come right through and they shine on a particular spot on a cliff wall.
Well, there appears to be another one up on the top of the structure to the right where it's kind of hidden behind that thing in the front. If you stood there, you would see something else like those very geometric things to the right of your little monolith under the word lens.
Yes.
Look at how geometric they look.
That's great, Richard. You are seeing what I have been seeing these past months. There's so much there.
Well, I cut my teeth on Martian ruins, so come on.
As did I. So that's part of the reason, too, why this is all jumping out at me. So, yeah, there's numerous alignments like that where you're looking through and you're seeing a path.
If we put ourselves in an Indiana Jones motif, remember that great scene where he's down in the temple and he's got the staff and the sun is shining and the crystal is beaming and all that?
Yes.
Are we supposed to use these sight lines to find the time capsules?
Yes. And that's what led me to the secret code. I call it the sacred aperture.
Okay. Yes. Apertures. Aperture, by the way, for folks that don't know, means an opening. All right.
Yep. Okay, number 37. Picture of the Enki mural where some of these sight lines end up. And it's just kind of a sister to the Hera mural,
I'm wondering, as I look at this, if one was to take really high-tech infrared gear, think Webb, and photograph this in the thermal infrared, either before sunrise as the sun gets higher and it warms up, or after sunset when it's cooling down, whether we might be able to retrieve a lot more of the detail of the eroded mural aspects of this.
Richard, you're on fire, because in one of my earlier images, it was one of my first overview images. It would be number, see if I can find that. Oh, it's number 8.
Oh, way back up in number
8.
Okay.
I'm using the effects in Premiere Pro and After Effects. And when you do this, you get these different colors that show up that you don't see with your naked eye. Like in number 5, you see a lot of red. Number 2 has some red in it.
Right.
The green circle has red in it. And down at number 1, you see that red?
Mm-hmm.
That's the Enki mural.
Yep. So what does the red represent?
Well, I'm not sure if it means it's hotter or what.
No,
but
I would.
Different
I would.
colors
I would.
are showing up.
I would think
So
this would be maybe brightness, luminosity.
Yeah, it's something like that. But it makes you think about what you just said.
Yep. Well, it wouldn't take. Remember, all this technology that used to be the property of the deep state. You had to have millions of dollars of funding from NASA or whatever. You can go out and get this stuff on the open market now on Amazon and go and do it yourself.
Yeah, and I was saying to Keith, I don't know if I want to, spout off with his arches stuff, this portal stuff, because the men in black are going to show up my door and go, "Oh, we want to have a talk."
They won't do that, John. You're too visibly exposed. Okay.
I hope so. Yeah.
And if they did, we will come and bail you out.
All right, number 38 is just a picture of the sight system on a rifle or a gun.
Right.
Line it up. So then number 39, there's these, I've identified a number of these, like 8 of these. I'm just calling them the straight 8s.
You have been busy. Busy little bee. Wow.
I can tell you. Oh my gosh. And I've got all this data for the other complexes like Balanced Rock and Delicate Arch and so forth. So I've been really busy because it's taken over my life in a way where I'm just, it's unbelievable. So, you can see here's another alignment.
I can think of worse obsessions. Really?
Yeah, and there's some urgency, like I said, because 2 of the arches have collapsed. We need to get this sorted out now. So number 39, I'm just showing another, the straight 8A structure has 2 notches, and I follow the one, and it goes right through one of those frames where the director holds his hands up and looks through the frame and lands right smack on this part. And then
I'm wondering, why didn't John Ford shoot some stuff up here? Why did he stay with Monument Valley, which is, it's nice, but this stuff has such incredible background tableau history.
And wait till I show you what's at Monument Park. It's just as astonishing as what we're looking at now. Really crazy. All right, so number 40 is now we're looking through that same straight 8 structure and just the other notch, and it lines up with Sun Slot A, and behind that is that mural that we've been talking about with the bird. And I keep saying that this Hera face is on it. I haven't found the Hera face yet. I think at this point I haven't found it yet. I found it about 6 months ago. I saw that face, and I wasn't sure who she was. Yeah, I'm convinced now she's the Anunnaki mother and all that. But so you can see that mural in the background and how the sight line, when the sun comes up, it would shine through here.
Well, one major clue, John, is why are the Europeans calling the mission back to Didymos Hera? Come on.
Yeah.
It's
exactly
obvious. Talk about hidden
number
history.
40, let's see, we're on number 41.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
this is with no annotations, looking down at Park Avenue. And I guess I'll go to the next one, 42, a wide shot of the mural. I didn't have time to paint this. This is gorgeous, and it tells a story. And I can't say I'm 100% positive that my interpretation is correct, but I think it's probably pretty close. But I am going to paint this. I want to have it done for November 3rd when I do the webinar on this area.
Mm-hmm.
So number 43, I highlighted the Hera face and the Horus part of that.
Wow, look at her. Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Yep.
And so at this point, I'm thinking, the light's coming through Sun Slot A on the equinox, and it's hitting her face because it's a triangular cutout on that partition where the light comes through. And her face is kind of triangular, right?
Very.
So I'm
very.
thinking that, yeah. And I also took into account that this cliff is at a particular angle as compared to the sun slot in the partition. I'm thinking, how does that light come through and it's hitting the cliff? So I'm trying to imagine that. Like you said, I work in virtual reality and 3D, so I'm always thinking how the light and shadow, and you know about ray tracing, Richard, and how the rays would come in and hit this. So I'm thinking about all this.
I'm just thinking thermal infrared.
Yeah, we got to get some of that LiDAR going so we can see what's inside it.
Well, do you know whether the Arches Park lets you fly drones around this place?
Well, they do, I guess, because there's plenty of people doing it on YouTube.
So you could simply outfit one with an infrared camera.
Yeah.
And just run around and take pictures from different angles at different times of day or after sunset or before sunrise. And I have a feeling that a lot of this stuff, which is just kind of hovering on the edge of consciousness, will be much clearer. Just have that feeling.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I would love it if somebody could go do that, or I will do it when I move out there. Yeah, this all needs to get done. Number 43A and 43B, just a couple of reptilian skull references. Angel Arch is in Canyonlands, which is next door to Arches Park. Number 44 is cool because I was just talking about chambers within these structures.
Wait. Don't pass 43B. Who the hell is that, and who's holding it, and where did you get it?
Oh, just if you Google Anunnaki, that's one of the images that will come up. And I forget the guy's name, but they found this skull, and it looks very much like a reptilian. It doesn't look very humanoid.
No, it does not look humanoid. It looks more like a mantis, like a big praying mantis.
Yeah. So number 44 is very cool because you can see in Horus's eye, it's not just like a gouged out thing. This has architecture and I think could well be an entrance.
Okay. Are we talking about the object in the lower middle or to the one to the right?
Lower middle.
Okay, the one that's kind of like curly. Little vortexy. By the way, there's a really bizarre face over on the left. Two of them.
Yeah. The one on top is definitely...
Looks like one of the guys from the Monolith Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. John, please continue.
Next, number 45 is we're looking down on the Hera mural and the...
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the funny thing is you move the sun through the course of the day, she will disappear at certain parts of the day.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And then, boop, there she is again, and then she's gone. So it's just certain times of the day this happens.
Well, this is very Martian. The Martian artwork, Ron and I have discussed this extensively, and so is Cynthia. You change the sun angle. You change the sun angle on the face, all kinds of things move and change and appear and disappear. It's like these guys were the masters, pun intended, of light and shadow.
It's been such a humbling experience for me, Richard. I just, I don't know sometimes whether to cry or shout with joy or what, because I'm just blown away by, these Anunnaki folks are just ridiculous. You guys are unbelievable. My God. All right, so where are we here now? Number 46. Okay, we're looking back. Actually, you can see my sundial here in the top left corner of this Google Earth image. It says 9/23/2022, 9:13 a.m. So you can see the sun is coming up here on the equinox. And you see where the light would come in through that sun slot A and shine on the mural. And let's see. Let's go to 47 is... Okay. This is where I found, like I said, I was moving the sun around, and I caught from the corner of my eye, I just saw this glint, and I went, whoa, what's that? What's that? Lo and behold, when I saw these holes, you see the green circle I drew there? Mm-hmm. That is the sacred aperture that I had been looking for, because I knew the sun slot just to the right of that we've been talking about and I've been pointing out. I said, this is too big. From what I saw in my OBE, they were small. It was like Indiana Jones with the staff. It was some beams coming through. I'm looking at these beams, and I'm like, where are those holes where the beams are coming through? And I couldn't find them, and I finally, that gadzooks moment. And when I looked through these holes, I had the most surreal feeling that I might be looking at something that nobody's seen for 400,000 years.
So wait, you can, in this algorithm, you can zoom in and actually look through these apertures?
And I took some pictures of that. Number 48, okay. I zoomed in now. Okay. And the cool thing is...
Oh, look at that.
Isn't that cool?
They're incredibly geometric. Nature doesn't do that. That's fracturing. No. And this rock doesn't fracture. It's sandstone.
And those shapes have meaning.
It's the geometry, stupid.
Purpose. Oh my gosh!
Wow.
So we're coming up. Do you want me to stop here?
No. We got another minute.
Okay.
Keep going.
Number 49. This is a very cool feature. And when I saw this glare, I'm calling this glare rock, glint rock, whatever you want to call it. There's this shiny sandstone that lights up when it catches the sun. And when I saw that, this is looking from the opposite direction of the previous picture we just looked at. This is looking from the other side.
I can see a whole Indiana Jones movie set here.
Oh my God. It's Indiana Jones squared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see the holes there and you have this glint rock, and that's an important feature because you find that this glare rock, 49A, I just draw circles around those geometric holes, the apertures, the sacred apertures that lead to the key code that will open up these portals for us. And then number 50, now we're looking down on that partition wall, and you can see that the sacred apertures, it's not aligned with the wall. It's at an angle.
Interesting. Okay, look, we are at the top of the hour. My guest this morning is John Womack, and George is waiting in the wings. Keith is ever vigilant. My name is Richard C. Hoagland. You're on the other side of midnight, and we're exploring ancient time capsules, not in a galaxy far, far away, but kind of, for me here, just around the corner. And we need other people to play. So if you've got time and money and an inclination, you might want to contact John through the Enterprise mission or through the other side of midnight, because we could use a little help. This is history in the making. We shall return.
theothersideofmidnight.com. Talk radio with pictures on demand. Liberate your hyperdimensional time scale and non-linearly access over 400 hours of conversation at the cutting edge of science and thought. Join Club 19.5 to get access to exclusive content that fits your interests and time schedule. Filter episodes by guest or subject. Membership costs $9.95 a month, 33 cents a day. Talk radio with pictures on demand. theothersideofmidnight.com.
And welcome back, everyone. It is now officially in the land of enchantment, Monday morning, October 10th. Tomorrow, October 11th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon in Washington, the NASA folks are going to regale us with their cover story for why they apparently destroyed an ancient time capsule. Two objects orbiting, the only two objects of asteroids orbiting in the whole solar system aligned with the Earth within a whisker, 12-hour period, one half a 24-hour Earth day, and they went and blew it to kingdom come. Were they that dumb? Was it a hidden agenda? Or were they led by a mysterious third party into committing an extraordinary act of, it's really a crime against humanity to destroy who we are. Anyway, John, returning to Arches Park in Utah, here on Earth, which nobody can destroy because somebody would notice.
Okay, we were on number 50, and this confirmed that I had found this key code, these holes, because it's angled and it matches the slant of this cliff mural that Hera is on.
Oh, so that's why you call it a key, because it's like a key in a slot.
Yeah, and it's pointing, well, those four holes, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's go to number 51. So I'm getting really excited. Now I found the holes, the light's coming through. I know it's going to shine. The top hole, I think, is going to shine on her face. But what are the three bottom holes for? What are they going to shine? What will they reveal on that cliff wall? Mm-hmm. And when you look at that cliff wall, there's a lot going on. There's all this story and history.
This is so Indiana Jones, boy.
It's so, yeah. So 51, you can see, I'm just pointing this out that these holes are the key. And we go to number 52. Yeah, I have some slides to show you that the glare rock is in all the arches, all the big arches. I don't know about the little small ones, but the big arches inside of the arch, all of them have this
You know what
shiny.
I'm really struck by, John, is how all these apertures, these big ones, small ones, whatever, they all have like equilateral two-dimensional triangles in a eroded form. Look at that. Look at the so-called delicate arch. Look at how it forms a equilateral triangle, which, of course, in 4 dimensions is a hyperdimensional tetrahedron.
Richard, you're on fire because the arches are not random shapes. The holes are specific shapes.
Mm-hmm.
And now the top left, the left side of this arch is a serpent coming down, kissing the head of Enki or some other Anunnaki. And the shape of the hole is specific. And you find this with the other arches, like the window arches. Those are her eyes, or somebody, one eye is kind of relaxed, the other one squinted. They're all shaped for a reason. I mean, like I said, these Anunnaki are just ridiculous. The extent that they go to leave this for us is just mind-boggling. So let's go to the next few images. Number 53. Again, you can see the glare rock or glint rock or whatever you want to call it. It's very shiny and it captures light. And in fact,
are we talking inside the arch?
Inside rim of the arch.
Okay,
yes.
good. Yeah, okay.
And number 54, just a really cool picture. You can see the details. This is the other side of the arch. We're looking from the opposite angle. And you can see, like, at the top there, I mean, this whole thing is so decked out. Every inch of it.
I see a dog on the right. I see a statue on the left, like a guardian of the arch.
Yeah. Yeah. The guardian. Man, Richard, you are nailing it. They have these guardians. There's one guarding Hera at Park Ave. They guard the arches. I don't have time to talk about a lot of this stuff tonight. I'm trying to do the highlights, but you're really picking up on this stuff, like
hyperdimensional resonance.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see, number 55. Some more. I can't wait to do a show on Delicate Arch because this is all really advanced technology we're looking at and what's going on here and what they're doing, and I just love it. And let's see, 56. 56 is now we're back at Park Ave at the sacred holes, the sacred apertures. And you can really see them here because the sun is coming up.
This is your computer reconstruction from the actual photography on Google Earth, right?
This is Google Earth, and I set it for, this is on 9/23. And the cool thing on Google Earth Pro is you can put in the date. When you hover your cursor over that timeline,
right?
You get some icons appear. One is a wrench, and you click on the wrench, and you can put in the day and the year.
Ooh.
So, yeah, if you want to go back to this past March on the solstice, you can do that and check alignments and that kind of thing. So that's what I hope people will do and share their findings and this kind of thing. But you can really see now. You just pointed out a guardian, Richard. You see the holes there circled in white, and there's two formations that are joined together, and these holes are in between the two formations. And the formation on the right is a
good grief,
dog.
It looks like a stepped. Look at the steps on the top. Look at the geometry in the top against the sun glare.
Yeah.
Boing, boing, boing.
It's a guardian, and he's guarding Park Ave and these secrets. And when I had figured out that he was a guardian.
You need to figure out where the beams were pointing to find the damn time capsule, John. Come on.
We're almost there. We have a few more slides to go.
Okay.
So, number 57. Yes, here's a close-up of the holes. And I'm getting very excited now because I'm zeroing in on what I've been looking for.
Look at how geometric they are. How can the park guys say these are just erosion? Erosion does not happen like that.
Yeah, and I'm certain that the park guys have no idea that this even exists.
I wouldn't be so sure.
I would bet money on it.
What about or you see your green oval?
Yeah.
Move to the left about 2/3 of the way to the edge of the frame.
Yeah.
Is that a pyramid?
Richard, you are on fire tonight because...
Wait a minute, I got to get some water here. Okay, go ahead.
Because the next step now, I'm looking through the holes at the mural, and now I just need to pan the camera left or right, and I'm looking for it to line up. I'm pretty certain I'm going to see Hera's face in the top hole is my feeling, but I don't know. But I'm very excited.
Oh, my God.
So I moved the camera just right, it was like a count of 2, 1001, 1002, and then...
There she is.
Slide 58.
Yep.
Boom. And there she is, and I got the biggest chill. Oh.
Well, this is so far beyond chance. Come on, John. This is real.
It's so far beyond
this.
This
is incredibly important, and we got to get more support. Elon, are you listening?
Elon, I wish I had his phone number because I thought of him too. I'm like, I could call him. So what we have, I was trying to tell you on the phone, I think it was last week we were talking, and you didn't have these pictures, so you said it's hard to picture what you're talking about. So now we're here, and I can explain what I was talking about. And you pointed out that on this partition wall that we're looking, with the holes that we're looking through, it seems like it's all carved when you get in close. And so what I did was I took these holes and just made a template of the holes themselves without the wall.
Right.
And then I go over to the mural across the avenue that we're looking at here. And I put this is the key I'm talking about. These 4 holes are...
They're not holes. They're much more... They're cut sight lines. Even the word aperture doesn't do it. They're obviously geometric sight lines that have been carefully chiseled or lasered or whatever.
Yeah.
Look at those edges. They're absolutely straight. Nature doesn't do that. And they're not all aligned. They're at different angles, so nature would not do that either. So,
right. And they put the glare rock just in certain parts because the glare rock catches the light and sends it through the portal.
Mm-hmm.
And I found, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Keep going.
Keep going. So I put these 4 apertures up against the mural, and then drew lines around, where they're centered. And then I go back and I'm looking through this partition again, and I'm looking, and I notice that, for example, how do I even describe this? One of the scenes that this key is showing on the mural, I'm looking at the mural, and the lines, I draw lines on the cliff wall where these holes are, the light is landing. And it looks like on the third hole down, let's say.
Okay.
You look through it, you see that on the cliff wall across the way, it looks like on the left side of this, left edge of that hole, you're looking through it on the mural. On the mural, you see the right side of somebody's face. And then I look and I go, oh my God, the left side of their face is on the partition.
Oh, so you're matching.
They're matching. And you can kind of see Queen Hera. I think it's Queen Hera again. So there are...
Are we
faces,
talking 58 or 59?
I'm on 58.
Okay.
So the top hole is Queen Hera's face, perfectly outlined. And then you have these bottom 3 holes.
That is incredibly precise geometry. Have you measured the angles, John? Hint, hint?
Yes. And, all kinds of thoughts are going through my head. Are these representing, parsecs in space, where these different species that left this behind for us, it's where they live? Or, it's very cosmic. And they are showing us something, and they didn't want us to find this easily. You have to look, you got to be looking for this. This took me some time.
Well, maybe you have to be genetically related, and the guy with the YouTube video hasn't a clue because he's not related.
Yeah, it definitely has to do with reincarnation, because there's people on Earth that right now that have had previous lives on Mars. There's people that were probably Anunnaki. So, yeah, you're right. Let's see. Let's go to number 50. Oh, 59. I'm jumping right to... I didn't know if we'd get this far, Richard, actually. I'm glad we got this far. But that bottom, the third, I guess it's the third hole down. You have the queen at the top. When you're looking through that partition, those holes.
On 58, you mean?
Yeah, 58. So 59, I'm showing you. Like I said, I put those those holes on the cliff wall, and I am not showing that slide. I'm saving that for the webinar. I do want to save some really cool things. I want people to come to the webinar.
They will. Don't worry, they will.
So,
hint.
Here is
you have to support John's
cool
research.
Spot.
This is amazing.
Yes, this is one of the spots highlighted in the sacred apertures. And now, if you were a human, you would be standing right in the center of this picture. There's this kind of, I don't know, obelisk, if you want to call it, statue. It's called a statue. It's lit. It's bright. It's showing up. The sun is shining on it. So a human will be standing that maybe a third as tall as the statue.
Okay.
That's what we're looking at. And off to the right, you can kind of see where is that another entranceway or something? And because the aperture is framing this scene right here.
And that figure, that very fuzzy figure in the middle?
The figure is at the center, and then...
So you need to get a close-up of the figure and find out who he, she, or it is.
Exactly. And
so
what it made me think of was number 60, item 60.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite episodes. Even though Fred Silverberg did it, I still think it's one of the good episodes. So.
Yeah, I cried when Miramani died. Yeah.
Yep, poor Miramani. Okay, go ahead.
So here's Kirk. They're at this obelisk thing with these symbols, and they don't know what it is, but he opens his communicator and he says, "Kirk to Enterprise." And a door opens in the floor, and he falls into it.
And hits his head and becomes amnesic. And,
yes.
then emerges, and they think he's the guy, some great ancestor, and they worship him. And it's a whole kind of an interesting, plot.
Yeah, there's Native Americans living nearby. So, and then at the end, they realized that it was his voice that activated the opening. And we have all these acoustical amphitheaters all over that partition. There's a very cool thing on that partition. Again, I don't have time to go into all this, but there are opposing amphitheaters, one on each side of the partition, just, on either side of the sacred apertures.
Okay, number 62.
Okay, number 62.
One of my favorite movies also.
Yeah, these are some movies that brought to mind as I'm looking at through the sacred aperture, and I'm following the map key down the mural with Queen Hera and all this, and I'm thinking of National Treasure, where they go inside Mount Rushmore, and there's all these chambers, and it's very Indiana Jones, and then Queen Hera reminds me of Mission to Mars. You had the Mother of Mars, who, when the planet went kablooey, she sent some.
Well, it's what did De Palma know, and when did he know it? So.
Yeah. And then another movie reminded me of is John Carter. That movie starts out with John Carter is being chased in 1888 American West. He's being chased by outlaws. He hides in a cave, and what do you know? He finds a portal, and he ends up on Mars. He's going, "What the heck just happened?"
Yep.
So Edgar Rice Burroughs,
totally underrated movie, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I think by design. That's another whole program. Keep going. 65.
Yeah.
You put your name on a pass.
Yeah, I figure, if I decode the portals, they'll probably allow me to name one of these places.
Oh, my.
Hey, come on. And this is a little spot over in Fish Seep Draw I kind of like, and so I'm calling it Womack Pass. And Fish Seep Draw
is that collection of very interesting guys at the top? Just below the far distant mountains.
I think I could probably do a show on this spot. This is a whole city, Anunnaki City, the Fish Seep Draw area. It's really astounding. That's the one the SUV and guy was walking through, and he stood on the arch and heard the echo. And But yeah, this is Womack Pass. I'm going to call it and pretend, like maybe I have some connection to this spot. I don't know, in a past life or
66.
And then 66. I'm not going to. This is a tease, but here's the Anubis, figure in Park Ave. This is a long park. You're walking there. You can see sun slot A with the sun coming up in the background. To the right of the sun, you see the sacred apertures again. You can see blue light coming through there. So you have, this is the coolest thing because this is like a solar and a lunar alignment thing. The sun comes through here and it actually is like bent and it comes over to this acoustical amphitheater behind Anubis. And as you move the sun slider on Google Earth, minute by minute, let's see if I took pictures of that. I think I did. Number 67. Here we are behind Anubis. And you have another acoustic. This is one of these two acoustical amphitheaters that are situated on this partition in such a way that I can tell that they are not canceling out. There's another one at the other end on the other side of the partition, and they are working together just like the sunlight is being directed over here, and you see the floor has sunlight coming on it. And what I found is that as the sun comes up, the floor is dark. There's no sunlight in this area. And as the sun comes up, let's see if number 68. Yes. Watch number 68.
Okay. Ah.
Oh, and that last picture, number 67, I wanted to mention about, you probably saw that Enki, is pretty clear right there. I think I pointed him out earlier in the show, but now you can see him a lot better there, his face in the green circle. Yeah, number 68. I want people to go do this. You can do this yourself. In the green circle, you can see even sort of some angular.
I see a hint of something. This is so
a hint of
Jones.
Yes.
By the way, I see a big putty tat just above. If the ellipse is a clock, midnight is straight up. At about the 2 o'clock position on that rock face, there's a putty tat looking directly at the camera. And he's a lion. Lions are important.
Yeah, there's all animals around it, elephants and all that stuff is all through here. But what happens is the sun comes up. It's bent somehow through the sun slot A or the sacred aperture, and it lights up that thing on the floor.
Okay. Same thing happens on the back wall of New Grange when the light comes through a light box over the entrance. The people who did this knew exactly how to use the light and beams and angles and direction and apertures to focus attention on changing stuff.
Yeah. And I think it could well be another entrance there by the cat, as you say. And their entrances aren't quite like ours. And it's not going to be a door that you have a knob and you open it. They're going to be very different entrances. You're going to pass through in ways that we don't think about.
Well, maybe.
Because we don't have this.
Maybe. We don't know.
Or maybe we do think about, but we don't have this technology. But this is all going on here. And what do I have? One more?
One more.
Yeah, here, just some more light sonic technology. The bottom yellow circle is the spot we were just looking at. It's right behind Anubis. I call it the Anubis chamber. And it's where, like I said, the light comes through.
Yeah, we're looking straight down almost on it.
We're looking at, kind of oblique angle. And then the kind of middle yellow circle, that's what I was just talking about. It's on the other side of the partition. It's another acoustical amphitheater with incredible things going on there when you get in there and start looking around. All these acoustical amphitheaters.
Maybe you should take a synthesizer and just run up the scale and see what happens.
I can't wait to do some of these experiments because, like, there's one there's a great one at Delicate Arch where there's a portal up on the cliff wall, and when the sun comes up, it shines through the portal down onto the floor where there's a triangular cutaway in the ground, like you would stand there and have the sun. The sun shines on it. You can see, and there's people walking right by it on the vacation videos on YouTube. You know, doesn't anybody even? They're not looking.
You know,
over
from this angle, my lion, which is just above your bottom oval, has a crown. Look at that sharp geometry above his. Oh, he's really obvious there.
Well, maybe you can flesh that out for me, Richard, like highlight or something, so I can see it too. I don't see it, but I believe you.
You will.
Absolutely. And then the top yellow circle is another amphitheater. So I've been plotting these amphitheaters, and right across the avenue here is where I mentioned that double chamber is. It's like one big chamber split. It's really got this cool split, so it's two chambers. And they're all working together to manipulate the light and the sound. And it's part of a technology that I don't quite understand. I have an inkling of what's going on, but I just need more time and more mystical experiences where I can go there and get other perspective and see what's going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you actually did it.
I did.
Actually did it. Yes, very good. Amazing. Okay, that means when we come back after the break, and we're very close to the bottom of the hour here, what we're going to do is we're going to bring Georgia on, and we're going to have a interesting discussion, because I think you're onto something really huge and major. Okay, so everyone hold it there. My guest this morning is John Womack. Georgia Lambert's joining us momentarily. Keith is standing by, hovering over the boards. My name is Richard C. Hoagland. We're talking about ancient time capsules. And no, you don't have to go to Didymos. All you have to do is go to Utah. But you have to go with your eyes and your consciousness wide open. You're on the other side of midnight. My name is Richard C. Hoagland. We shall return.
theothersideofmidnight.com. Tune in to listen to Richard C. Hoagland and his fascinating guests. Join Club 19.5 to get access to exclusive member benefits. Listen to past episodes anytime on any device. Search the archives of over 180 episodes. Membership costs $9.95 a month, 33 cents a day. Support the broadcaster to provide you with the most interesting conversation available. Talk radio at the cutting edge of science and thought. The other side of midnight.com.
And welcome back, everyone, on the other side of midnight. Last half hour to go. Well, John, you've given us an incredible tour de force of an incredible potential discovery, which now only has to be confirmed, and we have to figure out where the time capsules are. And obviously, the alignments are the clues. So, we're being joined now by Georgia Lambert, who is our resident metaphysician. And if you want a more formal introduction, you can go to the other side of midnight and look at the bios, click on those under the banners, and you can get all the background you want. So, Georgia, you've been very, 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 very patient. And obviously, you've got some thoughts about all this. What are they?
Well, I thought I would add a chunk to this stew, but kind of lob it in from the side in a completely different direction.
Okay.
We know, for instance, when we look at sacred places around the world, that they often mirror constellations, right?
Ah, yes.
The Great Pyramids related to Orion, Angkor Wat related to Draco, Newgrange related to Cygnus, and on and on and on, right?
Yep.
Well, that doesn't leave this continent out. There is an area, and you'll see why I'm bringing this in a minute. There's an area north of the area you're talking about and to the east in South Dakota and Nebraska called the Black Hills.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
If you were looking down at the Black Hills from the sky, it's this sort of ovoid black area that's surrounded by a road of reddish clay. And from about 100 to 1000 BC, the Lakota traditions call this road the Great Hoop or the racetrack. And they had a very specific pilgrimage that was part of their culture that started at the spring equinox and finished at the summer solstice around this track, around this sacred area of the Black Hills. They started their winter encampments in an area that they called, a constellation they called Dried Willow, but it's actually Triangulum and Aries is where they started. And they continue on to Harney, what we know as Harney Peak in South Dakota, where they did a ceremony of welcoming back what they call the Thunderers, or the elemental creators. And this was under a constellation they called the Seven Little Girls that we know as the Pleiades.
Oh.
And then they went on to the center of the Black Hills, where they did another ceremony welcoming all life in peace. And then at the summer solstice, they moved on to an area called the Bear's Lodge, or also called the Great Gray Buffalo Horn, under Gemini. We know that as the Devil's Tower.
Oh, my.
From, yes,
Close
everybody
Encounters.
knows that Close Encounters. That's right. So this whole area.
Well, didn't they think that those streaks, those incredible erosion patterns, vertical on the side of the tower, were caused by bear claws?
Yes, that's why it's
chasing
called
some Indian maiden to the top or something?
Yeah, that's why it's called the Bear Lodge. My point is that people all around the world do pilgrimages to these sacred spots. What we need to do, which is out of my wheelhouse, but what we need to do is find someone versed in Native American lore to place this National Arches Park in some kind of pilgrimage.
That context, yes.
Well, I have somebody, George Haas, actually.
George, yeah, okay.
Yeah, he says he has a Native American friend who George thinks he can help me decipher the glyphs. It's like their language is on these cliffs, and he says he thinks I haven't reached out to this person yet, but I'm going to hook up with this guy and see if he can offer some insight, because deciphering the language, of course, is very important.
Yeah, I would think we would not want to turn to YouTube guy.
And Georgia, when I looked through the sacred apertures, I wondered if those holes were constellations, because, you have Horus on that Hera mural. I thought, is one of these squares fit the Orion constellation? And then on Google Earth, you can see at night the stars, as the sun's going down and coming up. You mean
those straight edge geometric outlines of their doorways? They're not holes. Holes to me are like eroded, irregular little things eroded through something. These are cut windows or doorways, or
I
George,
was looking
help
at
me with the right term here.
So like I said, if we knew the Native American lore relating to perhaps a particular constellation or a particular pilgrimage related to a certain time of the year, we could get some really interesting clues as to the purpose of all of that and its function.
It may be so old that it's like telephone. If you pass a legend down long enough, it will change, entropy intrudes. So what the Native Americans think they're doing may have nothing to do with the original intention of the glyphs, the friezes, the statues, whatever.
Right, but the placement and the time of year will generally be secured. It's like, again, the Lakota, specifically doing stuff under the Pleiades or under Gemini or under Aries.
That would, you'd also have to account for precession.
Right.
John, have you thought about that?
Yeah, I was trying to see if the Orion constellation was overhead above the Hera mural when I was doing the fall equinox a couple weeks ago, to see if I recognized. I'm not that good with constellations, so I need somebody else to do this, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Orion, above her head or something like that.
And I don't know which Native American group, used that particular area. Was it Lakota or, some other tribe? But, it would be specific to their lore.
Before they made it a park in 1929, they had to they had a guy there in the petrified dunes there in that kind of flat open area. He was a cattle rancher. He raised cattle.
That's what they used to do, yes.
Yep. And so they, bought him out and eminent domain, and we're taking this, and they made it into the park. So I just thought that was funny that, you got these cows walking around these monuments going, Arr.
Well, there was another cattle guy here in New Mexico, Richard Wetherill, who he actually had a ranch up around Chaco Canyon. And he became part of the local lore. He knew so much about where the ruins were and where things were buried. And he was just a private guy, just a rancher here in New Mexico. But they didn't kick him out. They made him part of the larger, turning that into a national park. So, I don't remember which tribe would be part of that, of the countryside there. But it should be.
This whole continent, from the Serpent Mounds in Ohio to, this Egyptian artifacts being found in the Grand Canyon. This whole place has been, the site of all kinds of really interesting things way back when.
Oh, my gosh, yes. depending upon how ancient this stuff is, how many different peoples could have thought of it as theirs and then been supplanted by other people, and they supplanted by other people. In other words, if it goes back millions of years, we're literally looking at, extraterrestrial visitations, encampments, maybe whole cities.
Yeah.
Well, in esoteric lore, it's said that the continent of North America was part of the old Atlantean Empire, and that the vibratory frequencies here were very, very materialistic. And this is why the sacred brotherhoods in Europe and Asia didn't allow colonization until the Renaissance and humanity reaching a certain level of mental development where it was safe to colonize.
Well, I asked Richard, I asked Georgia about Mount Shasta because of an OBE I had in February of 2020, and then my experience here at Arches Park, and I think they might be related. And the OBE in February 2020 involved the Mount Shasta there, and what's the guy's name? Odama and Saint Germain are these two characters that they're ascended masters, they call them.
Many more than that. Shasta has always been sort of a hotbed of metaphysical marketplace stuff. It's definitely a very, very powerful area. And there's been all kinds of lore since time out of mind surrounding it. I had an elderly couple that was students of mine that bought a farm in the Shasta Valley, and I used to visit them. And, Shasta started, its career on the metaphysical map with a book that was written in the late 1800s, early 1900s called Dweller on Two Planets, supposedly channeled by an entity called Philos, that went into all kinds of stuff about, the Atlantean civilization and all of that kind of stuff. It was built on then by a gentleman named Guy Ballard, who wrote the I Am books and founded the I Am Society, who was really into Saint Germain and some of these ascended masters. They got really into the weeds with all kinds of glamour that, if you went there with the right attitude, the masters would find you and take you into the mountain and feed you feasts and stuff like they didn't have anything better to do, But you had to be wearing pastels because they didn't like loud colors. I mean, all kinds of
lilac.
craziness.
Okay.
Yeah, just craziness. But it's really odd because there's this metaphysical group that lives there along with the good old boy, cattle ranchers and the mountaineering stuff, because there's a lot of hiking and mountain climbing on Shasta. And it's gotten to the point where even the sedate, no-nonsense mountain climbers, the shops in the town of Shasta that sell mountain climbing gear have T-shirts that say, "A Lemurian stole my pickaxe." So Shasta is an incredibly powerful place, and it's a hotbed of UFO activity. But overlaid on Shasta is all of this really englamoured stuff because of layer on layer of, metaphysical fluff of generation on generation. But scrape the fluff away, and there's some real power there.
Speaking of constellations, I kind of got intrigued because I said last night that I was going to try to get Rick Levine to do the hyperdimensional astrology of the Didymos impact and alignments. And I haven't reached him yet. He must be really on travel. And I've been looking for what constellation Didymos was in front of when they did the actual impact. And I'm still looking because I haven't had a lot of time to getting ready for tonight's show to do that. But I did find that one very curious thing, which of course says to me instantly that somebody knows something. Because it turns out, you can do Earth coordinate systems where a certain object is on the sky, and if they're moving, and asteroids, of course, are moving, they change relative to this celestial coordinate system that's Earth referenced called right ascension and declination. Well, in right ascension, it was 5 hours and change, but declination went ding, 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 because they hit it when it was exactly at 33 degrees south declination.
Of course they do.
So they obviously knew what they were doing. So why would they destroy a time capsule? Unless, and I mentioned this to Ron this afternoon, the guys with the secret space program that have the anti-gravity spaceships, no Artemis rockets, no hydrogen leaks, all that, they've been out, they ransacked both of them. They were basically emptied of all the good stuff. And then they say to NASA, okay, you can use it for target practice.
Stranger things have happened.
Yep. So, John, when are you moving to Utah?
Well, I'm not going to move as long as my cat Biscuit, who's 17 and very sweet and dear to me. I wouldn't do that to her. But when she passes away, I'm going to pack it up and move out to Grand Junction, Colorado is the closest city to Arches Park. And my brother tells me it's a very nice town. He's been there many times. And that's what I'm looking at. And I've got, I've got a small fortune in my home saved up, so I'll be able to, have money and equipment. And I'm going to devote the rest of my days to this.
Well, given that we had a cat, Blackie, who lived past 22, 23, you may have to visit before you move, okay? I'm very serious, I mean, come on, cats have 9 lives, and if she's happy and comfy and all that, she could be around for a long time, so I think you need to make, tracks before then.
Well, Maria and I have talked about meeting there next year, next fall for this
God, you are patient.
Gaia conference that she goes to each fall. And, Richard, she was just out there for 3 weeks.
I know.
Called you, and yep.
She
was there for 3 weeks. She went to Chaco Canyon and all these other places, and then, went to the Gaia conference and gave her talk. And so we're looking at next year to meet up there, and I'm looking forward to that. She wants me to come to England as well for this other conference, and I'm like, hey, I haven't been past, my travel involves going to the CVS and the grocery store, and that's about it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Do you have any other thoughts, Georgia? Because, I'm still whelmed by how astonishing this picture that Jonathan is portraying really is. I mean, there's got to be something really amazing there, and it's so astonishingly connective to the whole Didymos time capsule idea.
Well, like I said, I think that there are numerous places on this continent that have wonderful secrets waiting to be unfolded. And this is just one of them. And we need to find out more about how it fits into the bigger picture.
Yep.
Well, Richard, I've identified several species that work together to sculpt the Western U.S. and other parts of the world. And so there's these different species, and I wondered if the sacred aperture, it's got these 4 holes. One thought I had was, are they 4 places where these different species come from? Because there is a galactic community. I mean, Earth has been our solar system has been part of the galactic community since they made us, since they made this place.
Right.
Because there are are beings, races that were born, billions of years ago, closer to the center of the galaxy, and then we came along late in the game. We're on one of the outer arms. They've survived all this stuff. They become these super advanced civilizations, and then they go on to create this stuff. And so we're a part of the galactic community, and all the aliens they're always here, and there's lots of aliens around. It's their place, and they're waiting for us to wake up to it.
That's one idea. There's a million ideas. I want data.
Yeah.
I'm a real data-driven kind of guy. By the way, you're going to love this. You'll never guess where Didymos was when they hit it at 33 degrees south declination.
Was it in the same track as Oumuamua, perhaps?
No. In the constellation a stone's throw away from Sirius in Canis Major.
Mm-hmm.
Now that tells Georgia a lot. Because somebody from Sirius is interfering in terrestrial history and has been for a very long time.
Well, the metaphysical tradition supports that Sirius is the home of what is called the Great White Lodge, that the spiritual hierarchy of this planet is a rustic outpost of that greater lodge on Sirius, and that Sirius is the balance point between the 7 masculine stars of the Big Dipper and the 7 feminine stars of the Pleiades.
And it's the dog star, and one of these races at Arches Park, they're dog people, like Anubis. They're I don't know what to call them, but they're a race of.
Well, wait. How do you know these are races and not metaphors?
I don't know, actually. Just from my research, I feel like these are different races working together. They're part of the galactic community. They all know each other's planets, and they're like you and your neighbors, okay? And they are depicted here in Arches Park, and these dog people are the guardians.
Okay, well, we need to do some background research on the lore and lure of dog people.
Anubis and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, but isn't Anubis a mask for Sirius, for really Isis?
I don't know.
See, we need a part of this group of mythologists to actually, as
well. Isis is, of course, the mother of mysteries. When the Freemasons talk about widows and orphans, they're not talking about widows and orphans. The great widow is Isis herself, the mother of mysteries, and the orphans are those that have been severed from the mysteries and are seeking them again. And so Isis is again, in Kabbalistic terms, she's related to the Sephirah Binah, the Black Mother, the Black Madonna, is the Christian version of Isis, whereas Anubis is, of course, the guardian of the underworld. And in many, many cultures, it is a dog or a wolf that is the guardian of the underworld, or on the threshold between this world and the other.
And that Anubis head in Park Avenue that I pointed out is low, it's at the bottom section of that partition. I wonder if that represents the underworld.
It's interesting, in the tarot cards, the card the Moon has 2 towers in it with mountains in the background, and in front of each tower, on one side is a wolf and the other side is a dog. And you have to walk between them to get to the mountains, which are symbolic of the head and the higher centers within the head.
Interesting.
But
John,
it's related to the card the Moon, which is interesting.
Yeah. John, why don't you give the promo for your webinar and tell people how they can get tickets and when it is, and if they can't physically get there, how they can tune in on the web, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's an online event, so you can get tickets at jonathanwomack.com. They're $750, and then they charge you $250 for the service fee, so it's $10. And it's November 3rd. It's a Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll have a chance to go into more detail. I'm just doing the highlights tonight, and then I want to do one a month. The next one will be Balanced Rock Complex, and then Delicate Arch, and so forth. And that's the plan.
Are you looking for any volunteers except YouTube guy to actually go and do some site surveys for you?
Yes. First on after this show, tomorrow I will be, hitting up Scott Wolter and Dr. Schock. And
yeah, I would go for Scott first because I know, both of them. I know Robert better than I know Scott, but I think Scott would be more open. Robert is really very kind of rigid sometimes.
Eccentric?
No, rigid.
Okay.
Rigid.
Okay.
It's like if he didn't invent the idea, he doesn't. Anyway, so I think Scott would be much better.
Yeah, I wanted to wait till we did this show so that I would have something to show them. And
remember, Scott says he's part of this big reveal. He was approached by some government agency that asked him to be part of a kind of advisory panel on the UAP, UFO office and disclosure process and all that. So the idea of ancient terrestrial connections and time capsules, he should really resonate to the idea there could be a MacGuffin somewhere in those canyons.
I would think so. It's so obvious to me. I just shake my head. And, half the time I don't know whether to get sick and throw up or scream with joy from the highest mountain. It's a travesty and it's a joyous, glorious event.
Or maybe you're the guy who's supposed to unveil all this.
Yeah, they might, if I unlock the secret of the portal, which I am zeroing in on, then, yeah, I see in my mind years in the future they have some guy, some Neil Armstrong, and he's getting ready to step through Delicate Arch.
See, one of the ways to find the portal, and I think you're using that in the sense I'm using it. Oh, thank you, dear. Is a conveyance which would take you from outside to inside some kind of a chamber, which might reveal some very interesting stuff. Anyway, we will talk about this obviously at another time because we're at the end of the show. I want to thank all my guests tonight, Keith Morgan, of course, for his first-person reportage of what this place looks like when you're there as a tourist and suddenly realize not exactly what they've been telling you about. And, of course, John Womack for a tour de force whirlwind Warp 9 tour of Arches National Park, and Georgia Lambert for her, as usual, very hyperdimensional perspectives. And, yes, we should find the Native Americans who hung out here to find out what they knew and their pilgrimages. So, until next weekend, third star on the left, straight on till morning. Good night, everyone.